trying to learn something more about light and color, I decided to take a Rembrandt self-portrait and make a copy and a study of it. Now, a copy, as in looking like Rembrandt, is not going to happen. But what I was doing was pulling from the painting and the techniques, and so I laid in the background color, that basic color, and started to work in darks and lights and shapes, and just kind of by eye looking at the background, the colors, the relationships, and laying it in using a round brush. The first part of this is all done with a plain round brush in Procreate. The shapes of the face, I laid in what I perceived to be a basic skin color that was a light skin color, and put the features more or less where I thought they belonged. I can already see, looking at this, that the nose is set too low on the face, and it's not quite at the right angle either, but that'll get corrected. So as I continued, I kept laying in the features, did a little bit, kind of picked around here and there, and worked in a few detail lines to try to get somewhat of a likeness. At this point, it really doesn't look like the self-portrait. I can see the seed of it, but I do have some proportions wrong. And of course there's an expression on his face that really is, to me, I kind of recognize that expression, because here is a person who is a master of painting and looking at his aging face. And that is something that I think everyone has had, that moment where they look in the mirror and they go, well, okay, this face is the face I have now. And maybe you're happy about it, maybe you're resigned to it. I think this was, well, who is that person in it that is looking back at me? And anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I continued to lay in some more shadows. I'm really being tentative about it at this point, rather timid, because I'm not laying in darks. I'm just kind of trying to understand what the relationships are, the colors. I like that there is a warm reflection on the shadowed side of the face, and you can see a little bit of the hair peeking out from under the hat on the right side. And I haven't even picked that detail out yet, so I'm just working in. As I was doing this, I was noticing that there are repeated shapes. Now, this is something that it's really pretty basic stuff, but again, I'm using this to learn more basics and to move my skills in painting digitally up a little bit. So where I found shapes, I laid them in. There's the triangle of the collar, the triangle of the shirt, which I incidentally don't have the right size. There's many different areas that are using triangular shapes, and that is something that I know. The highlight on the right cheek that's in shadow forms a triangle, and many of the other parts of the face, as well as just the general composition, use a triangle. And I'll make a little bit more clear what those are later. But at this point, I went in and started working in a little more darks and lights, and picking around, moving around in the picture, and trying to adjust things. I can see that the eyes are misaligned and maybe a little bit too small, and at one point I'm going to go in there and fix those. Again, I try to see, because for me the eyes are what give you most of the likeness. I realize that the rest of the features of the face do as well. But they are, well, they say they're the window to the soul. They really are where you see what that person might be thinking, how they are feeling, what's going on with them. And so it's really important for me to get those right. And in this case, they're not. They're rather, again, a bit timid, and there's not enough shadow and light around the eye sockets yet. So here I'm adjusting the eyes, messing with them, made them a little bit bigger, which helps. They may actually be a little too large, but they are a little more like they are in the painting. Once I got some of these values stuck in, I blended them down because I'm going to go ahead and go over them. And what I was noticing looking at the painting close up is that there are many small fine lines for details, and it's layer after layer of color and value that, you know, it's been laid in on top of a base color. And it's an interesting thing to make a guess at what those base colors are, and I chose that rather pink color as the one that I saw most often in the skin tones. And so I continued to work on it. I have put in more details as far as where the ear is. Some of the placement of things isn't quite right. I'd periodically check the values by using a black filled layer on top that is set to color, an extra layer. If you set it to color, you can check the values against against what against your source. I do that periodically, checking. I can see now that I've moved the forehead, the line of the forehead up to a little more realistic. And what I see when I do this is that I have the line on the right side of the face a little more precise, but I think there's still some problems with that. Yeah, so I'm adjusting that. Also, time to work a little bit more on the background. I like the really lost edge, that it's the right, at the right where the hat and the neck and the shadow of on the background meet, and I haven't quite captured that yet. At this point, I also flipped it horizontal, which is a good thing to do, just to check your proportions and your placement, and that gives you an opportunity to see it with fresh eyes. And I can see there are some issues with where the collar and the jaw meet, and some shapes are not really quite right. It's getting a little better. It's looking a little bit more like Rembrandt, but the mouth and the shapes still need a bunch of work. So I'm continuing to work in more shadows and more highlights, and working on that eye, and moving about on the image. I can see that the placement of the mouth, some of the corners of the mouth are not right where they're supposed to be. It looks like the chin needs to be moved up near the collar. So I'm still laying in different, and then checking it and flipping it again. So now I'm working on the mouth area, and trying to get a little more reasonable shape there. And at some point, pretty soon. I'm going to stop this for the moment and then show you the shapes that I was talking about in the composition. So look for the triangles. There are triangles all over this piece. And what I noticed once I got to the end of this was that all of those triangles are pointing right into the focal point, which is of course the face, the facial features. It's like it either moves you towards the face or swoops you back up into the picture. So even though this is a close crop, you can see all of the triangles that are there. So the diagram is showing you the direction that the triangles are facing. I know it's not a revelation, but it's helping me. And in part two, I will redo some of this work.